Hi, I'm Megan.
I'm Selena.
Welcome to One Head, Two Ducks.
A grown-up theater kids podcast.
Today's episode is going to be an interesting one. We are going to dive into the kind of controversy that's surrounding actors' equity right now, which is the Actors Union, and also talk a little bit about when Broadway returned, the ticket situation. Like, how much is it going to cost? No one knows.
Mm-hmm. No one knows.
No one knows. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what Actors Equity is. It's the Stage Actors Union. It, much like people talk about SAG, which is the Screen Actors Union, Actors Equity is the sister union to SAG. It's for stage actors. It basically anytime you go see a Broadway show or a Broadway tour, equity actors, equity stage managers, equity stage hands, they're all going to be part of Actors Equity, part of the union. So what's been going on since the pandemic? Since there has been no Broadway and there has been no shows, regionally or otherwise, hasn't been a whole lot for the Actors Association to do, right? But as things are kind of opening back up again, more people are getting vaccinated, summer's coming, there's definitely going to be some opportunity for outdoor performances all over the country. So what are the rules? Well, that's where we run into the problem. Actors Equity hasn't really been very open to their members about the rules of what should happen. A lot of people were working on rules that were set months and months and months ago before a huge vaccine rollout was happening. So they weren't quite sure what to do. And a lot of people were finding that they were jumping through the hoops that Equity was kind of asking them to jump through, and yet not hearing anything until the day before they really should be like mounting a production. And then all of a sudden they get the go ahead, but then it's too late. Mm-hmm. So what is the update as of right now? What's the issue right now? Actors Equity just released a statement talking about how they're going to have a town hall, but that they've opened up, they've kind of showed the rules of what's going to happen if a regional house would like to mount a production, a fully vaccinated production. So that's the first thing you have to remember. Everybody has to be fully vaccinated in order to be part of the production. Yeah. If anybody catches COVID, the production has to pay for their housing, their food, their medical expenses, anything extra that they would require, the production has to pay for it. There has to be a COVID officer to make sure things are COVID compliant for every 20 people. So if you have a production of 35 people, you have to have 2 COVID officers.
That's a lot of rules. Like, how are they going to enforce that? And then I was also thinking, like, especially when it comes to like the whole vaccinated thing, like, where is the line of not that I'm not against vaccines. Don't write us emails or comment anyways. But I'm just saying, for those who are, like, where's the line of like almost like rights, like a human right? Like, do I have to, like, if I want to work, should I have to get vaccinated? And is that fair? Like, if I don't believe in it, or maybe I can't, like, maybe I have one of those conditions that, like, I think asthma, they have that thing, like, that it gives you a higher risk for certain things. Like, what if I can't get the vaccine? Does that make it fair then, as working as an actor? Like, I can't work. So like, that's kind of I don't know. I think that could get dangerous. You know.
Well, and it's a difficult road to travel on, right? Because it's the, how do you ask for a vaccination card? That's almost kind of like you're almost kind of towing the line of I don't know, right to work a little bit, right? You know, you don't need to know my
Mm-hmm.
age to
Mm-hmm.
let me work on something. You don't need to know my ethnicity. But I think you're totally right that it starts to kind of get into a gray area, you know. And then
Mm-hmm.
again, like sometimes actors come from all over the place. What if you live in a state where I know that currently everyone's like anyone who wants to get a vaccine can, or at least by May 1st or whatever, that can happen. But what if it still hasn't really gone your way that you can get one yet? You know,
Mm-hmm.
are you being
Mm-hmm.
punished for not being able to get a vaccine yet? I don't know.
Right, right. And then that
It's
question of, like you said, like how are they gonna, like throughout all the theaters, how are they gonna enforce that? Like you said, the card, and then not only that, but how are they gonna enforce all these other rules? Like, are they gonna be monitoring us like Big Brother on a camera?
it's more just like when you think of what this all comes down to money.
Right.
Everything we're talking about today, it's like the money episode. So when you have a regional theater, say you and me, Selena, wanted to start a regional theater. We start a
Whoop
regional
whoop.
theater. Whoop whoop. Here we are. We have a good rapport in our community, and we take the next step and we become an equity certified house where we are able to have equity contracts, um, and we're able to put on equity, you know, or productions that are backed by equity, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of step our game up in terms of our actor pool that we get to use and our creative pool that we get to use, and that helps us bring in more money. But it also, you know, we do have to pay these actors a higher wage than we would if we were paying non-union actors. We also have to pay into their health care and whatnot, which is great. I think every actor should get a pay, like a living wage, because that's another
Mm-hmm.
thing that
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of people out there that want to take advantage of actors because we are passionate people and you only want to pay us $100 or $200 a week. And especially in this time, that ain't gonna fly.
That ain't gonna fly,
That ain't gonna fly. Anywho,
honey.
so, honey, um, say our wonderful theaters has been doing well, right? But it still costs
Mm-hmm.
us I don't know, like $8,000 maybe to put on a production, maybe more, 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Say we
Mm-hmm.
charge I don't know, $50 a ticket, $60
Yeah,
a ticket.
$50, 50 to 60, depending on their seats. Yeah.
Yeah, so say we have a I don't know, let's say we have a 300 seat house.
Mm-hmm.
Say we charge $60 a head. That's $18,000 we could make in one night. Not bad,
Not
right?
bad.
If we sell out every show.
That's
Right?
true.
But that also goes for like upkeep of the theater, that goes for rent if we're renting like the land that the theater's on, that goes for paying the ushers, paying concessions, paying bartenders, paying our theater staff,
Right.
marketing. You know what I mean? Like
Marketing.
this, just making sure everything, like if there's a leak in a bathroom or if
So you're
there's,
coming out with very little overhead, like very little profit, if
right,
any.
if any. And some shows are probably going to do better than others. So, you know, hopefully it eventually kind of evens out and you still end up in a good place. Well, now the pandemic hits, right? Now we have nothing going on. We have no shows. We have no one to pay, but we also have no income.
Hmm.
So now now we're kind of itching, right? We need to get back because we need income. Our business needs to keep growing because if it can't, then we're going to have to sell the theater or something, right?
Yeah.
So we reach out to Equity and we're like, hey, we'd like to mount a production of, let's see, what's a two-person musical? We'd like to mount a production of The Last 5 Years. Two
Yes.
actors, a piano player, a lighting guy, a mic
Sound
person,
dude. Mic person, not even a real set,
a
just mic.
sound designer, you know, someone to just kind of be there for mics, maybe. And maybe, like, as we're looking at it, like, well, we can't even afford this. Selena, you're going to have to operate that spot, and I'm going to have to make sure their mics are okay. We're going to have to figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Meanwhile, I'll take the tickets, you make the drinks, and then we'll just run back and, you know, make it work.
We'll make it
Somehow we'll
work.
make it work. So say you know, tell them, hey, we want to do this. And we hear nothing. We hear nothing. We hear nothing. We're like, okay, what's the deal, right? We got to got to get this moving, right? We got to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because we
Mm-hmm.
would want to market this. We would want to make sure that we're keeping our audience safe. Because again, we're going to have to space out the audience. And if we do that, we are also losing
Yeah.
ticket holders and ticket money that we need to put on productions and pay rent and all that kind of stuff. So, still not hearing anything from Equity. Finally, we get the thing back that says, okay, that's fine, but your two actors have to be vaccinated. You need a COVID officer. Our COVID officer has to like come and check out your facilities to make sure they're COVID
Do we
friendly.
got to pay for
Submit
that?
their pay. We got to pay for it. Submit it in case they find something that, you know, whatever, but they have to submit the paperwork and then we have to be approved. And then, you know, God forbid our piano player goes and has a drink at a bar and catches COVID or is sick and we don't know what it is. We have to test everybody every week. So we have to pay for their testing, which is not cheap.
No.
And then if anyone associated with the catches COVID, gets sick, thinks it's COVID, whatever, because even with the vaccine, you could still catch COVID and just be sick and not die, but be sick. And, you know, we would have to keep paying them even though they're not working and possibly delay our schedule. So and I totally get that that's something that you should do because you know, should be taking care of your people, but
that's still
what
a
if
lie.
they make a wrong choice?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that was my question with the whole COVID paying for them thing. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I get it that, you know, you're asking people to come into your show, so the risk is higher. But what if they don't even catch COVID with your show? What if they went partying or went to someone's house or something that's totally outside of your control or in your purview and you still got to pay for that? Like, that's not fair. Like, why should I pay, like you said, for someone's wrong decision? Like, or do we make actors sign something? But then again, you can only make law so far because, you know, an actor can go sneak out and do whatever he wants, even though he signed a contract saying he won't. So, like, then I still got to pay him. Or is there fine print that says I don't have to pay you if you get it outside of this production?
Yeah. I don't know. And honestly, maybe that's the answer, is you kind of force your actors into a bubble, just like they're doing with film and TV.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of forcing their actors into a bubble. They're like, you have to stay in this hotel, like all their main actors, say like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. All the main actors of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel are in a bubble in a hotel in Midtown. They're not allowed to, you know, be in contact with anybody outside of the production while they are filming. And maybe that's what I mean, it's rough, but maybe
you're getting paid as an actor.
People.
At least you're getting paid. This is your job. It's like, you know, if you were working in a lab, I don't know, like it's your job. So yes, it's a little harsher and it's a little more uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you are getting paid and it's a job. So I don't know. I think that is more fair than asking a production to pay for people to go do whatever they want and catch COVID. And then, that's not fair. So. Yeah.
And I think that there's probably, I mean, you have to like look at every region. I mean, we've talked about this before. Every regional theater is different. Every theater is going to have their own set of needs and skills and talent pool and, you know, what they use successfully. Like, I'm sure some theaters probably have maybe a community outdoor space they could use for production so they could have more people there. But some do not. They only have their theater, and maybe their theater's small. Maybe their theater's only 150 seats. Maybe it's an intimate place, like a little black box.
Yeah.
What do you do then? Are you only going to have 50 people in the audience and make half of your earnings? It's
true.
Hard.
It is hard.
And you have to think like a lot
Would
of
Equity cover them like renting a city space? Like say the city has an outdoor something. Would Equity cover like a rental something? That's rude.
That's a very good. I mean, I don't know if like that matters where you end up. I'm sure you have to submit it to Equity. Be like, hey, because our theater is tiny, there's like an outdoor amphitheater that we have used, like we're able to use because it's technically part of like the town property. Can we have our production there? Maybe.
then that would
That's a
be,
very good question.
that would be helpful, maybe, perhaps,
That would be
if they can
helpful.
think of like ways to to get along with your community, see where your community can allow you to do places
Yeah.
if your space is really small, and maybe there's a possibility there.
And we kind of had this come up when we were talking about this before we started filming, was why would you even be an equity member right now? Right?
That's the
Why wouldn't
question.
why wouldn't you just stay non-union? That way you wouldn't have to deal with so many rules. The other side of that coin is, as a non-union member, we talked about this a little bit. There are a lot of people out there that will take advantage
Yeah.
of actors and people who are passionate and want to do something, because there are so many of us. Someone's going to work for free. Someone's going to
Yep.
do it. Someone's not
Hmm.
going to ask the questions they need to ask. Someone's going to just want to do it because they want to play that part, or that part's their dream role, or they just want to get back on stage again. So they'll be okay doing a show for $150 that's maybe not so socially distanced as it should be, and maybe is not going over the right protocols they should, and maybe the director's not wearing a mask, and I don't feel like I can say anything. Like, who am I going to tell? There's no one there representing me. So that's the other issue, right?
Right.
This is the thing, is like, and I want to be clear, I'm not telling anyone to, you know, ditch equity or take your equity card or this or that. I'm just kind of giving both sides of a coin right now that aren't, they both kind of, they're not the best right now.
Yeah,
Not the
they
best.
both have validations. They both, like, for the person who really wants to work and equity's being difficult, they just want to work, and they it is tempting to just be non-union. But then, like you said, then you run the risk of being taken advantage of, and not having that protection. So that also is very fun. So it's just it's a rock and a hard place for actors right now,
Yeah,
and creatives. It's just a rock and a hard place, and it sucks.
it
We're doing
really
so well.
sucks. And, part of this is going to be too, because all these theaters are going to start coming back and start doing shows again. The shows are going to, because they
Yeah.
won't be able to afford big, even 15, 20 person productions right now. They can't.
No.
So that whole, like, classic musical with an ensemble that dances is gonna be not a thing for a while. And
And that's sad. That's sad.
it's
It's,
sad because,
and especially, you mentioned before, like, that really comes down to that dancer, right? That dancer who, this is their life, this is what they do, this is what they eat, sleep, breathe. They dance on Broadway. They don't really care for the big roles, they don't care for any of that. This is what they do. And take it even further, there's not a lot for dancers to do out of high school. You got like some companies to be like a ballerina or like a whatever contemporary dancer, and then you got, maybe a backup dancer for a group, or a musician, or somebody who's touring, who no one's touring right now. So there goes that.
no one's touring.
So then
And
you
who
got
knows what
Broadway.
those rules, I don't think there's even
Right.
rules for touring right now
Right.
as a from equity. Like, there's
There's
definitely no
yeah.
rules for
So
touring
like
right
this
now.
poor dancer who, like, and they were so excited, and I'm sorry, I'll get into a character, but they're so excited because they even get to live and do a career as a dancer, and then now it's gone. Like, that's so hard. Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
Maybe you can teach small classes.
And a lot of dancers are doing that. A lot of dancers are kind of, going back to teaching again.
Hmm.
But,
I know it's not
if they,
ideal, but at least it'll bring some money. You can charge, whatever fee you want, and then there you go. But that just is tough.
yeah, it's tough for those people that are lifelong ensemblists and they're good at what they do. It really, it's a blow for sure.
Mm.
And then you had the thought the other day of, like, well, what does this mean for even just your cast? If someone comes down with something, does that mean they have to have like
Yeah.
a second and third understudy just in case, like backup? And
Yeah.
even then, how do you have them in the same room with everyone? Do you have them watching on a screen? Because they still
Hmm.
have to know the blocking and know what to do,
Right.
but they also can't be exposed.
Right.
So
And then you can't, and then going back to the money, now you got to pay what you would have only paid two people. Now you got to pay like four.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I don't know. This is
I don't
it's a
know.
tough, and so that's why I had brought too that idea of okay, perhaps yes, let's keep this show smaller, unfortunately, but let's keep the show smaller so that the risk goes down. Let's have that stipulation in the contract. Let's try to bubble our actors and our creatives,
Mhm.
and from there, the where we can get the money back, like what you were saying before. You said about being not able to do an eight show week, right? It's just not going to happen right now. So where do you recoup the
Oh
cost?
yeah.
So I really think the best idea that we had thought of prior to this show was yes, doing that 3 to 4 day a week, and then having it recorded. And I know Broadway, you guys keep that thing tight, but just hear us out. Just hear us out. But keep but record it, like you professionally, like you can do. And that day you can either do a smaller audience or no audience, kind of like what Hamilton did. They did some with an audience, some without, and then release it to the public for a fee. So say let's go extreme with Hamilton, and say your ticket was, what was ticket prices for Hamilton?
The Hamilton tickets we bought were like $200, maybe more.
Okay.
Because this was a few months after the original cast left. We somehow got like a link that was like win a lottery for cheaper Hamilton tickets.
Right. Okay.
And we did. We won like four for like 200, all $200 or
That is
250
awesome.
or something like that.
That is awesome. So
So
say your
really,
ticket price is $300, right? Even though right now after COVID you really should lower it, just FYI. No one's got that. But say it is still is, say you're trying and you have optimism. So you start at $300, and yes, you got a few people who it didn't hit them very hard so they can afford it. So then with that video recording, stream it. Like say you do a specific access code or one of those things that you can shut it down. It doesn't go on forever. And then sell that to anyone in the world. I mean, that allows it in the world, for like say $100. I mean,
yeah.
and even though that sounds still steep, maybe 50 to 100, depending on the show. But people paid for Mulan $30 on Disney Plus, and yes, some
Yeah.
people were angry, but but still a lot of people still paid for it. So there is something to, okay, getting it still cheaper, because although you go cheaper, although you go down $100, you're opening it up to millions more.
Mhm.
So like
True.
so you actually kind of recoup that by opening up to so many people. So maybe
Yeah.
then you can actually get a real profit. And like I said, you can make it a specific day. You can change the days, you can change the access codes or whatever, so that people can't just be getting in. And of course you do have to think about the leaks, that someone might share it with their family. So you might, I don't know how that works. Maybe you can get somebody in the higher IT to do IP stuff, where it's like, no, only one thing from this IP. I don't know.
Well, you know what? I remember this past winter, and I forgot what streaming service it was on, but it was like it's like a Broadway HD, but for opera.
Oh yes,
And I forgot what it's.
I don't
You
know
know
what
what
it's
I'm talking
called
about?
either, but I know what you're talking about.
I know it begins with an M, I think, and I can't remember what it is. But they had offered like if you paid $20 or $25, you get to see the Nutcracker for 24 hours.
Exactly.
And that was the Nutcracker from 2020, like right before yeah, right before everything shut down, like 2019.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
2019, 2020. It's called Met on Demand, and they did if you pay 20 $25, you get to see or you get to stream um the Nutcracker
The
for 24
Nutcracker.
hours.
And even
Yeah.
Ratatouille tried to do a little bit of that too. You paid for it, and then of course we had three people on one little thing. But still,
Yeah.
again, you're still I still think that if you open it wide enough, you can still recuperate. whatever that word is, a lot of that costs. I think that, and then they can, like I said, like you were talking about, like what we both were talking about, they could balance that between people who still want to see it live, or if it's really painful that you don't want to do both at the same time, then release your show a year or two after. Release it on
Yeah.
streaming a year or two after. I think that's fair as well. But either way, I believe that this is a time that Broadway not only has to, in a sense,
Hmm.
but has the opportunity to do something different and to push themselves into the 21st century. I know we have our diehards that want to hold on to the good old golden years, but this is a different time and it's only going to get worse. You know, it's
Yeah.
only going to get deeper into technology. It's only going to get deeper into less face-to-face stuff. So this is just a part of the future. And COVID, in a sense, just forced a lot of businesses into the future. It forced us to
Yeah.
think of, okay, let's think of what we can do. Let's not be don't be Blockbuster. Broadway,
Yeah.
don't be Blockbuster. Notice the Netflix that is happening right now and jump on board. Don't get left behind.
Well, so and then that's the issue, right? Is like transitioning out of the kind of the actors equity conversation and into now Broadway is a lot of people are kind of accusing actors equity of only caring about Broadway and only really kind of just like waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting in order to just kind of know what they're doing with Broadway and then telling everybody else what to do, when they should be doing the opposite. Because actors equity could be making money right now a little bit, yes, but they could be bringing in some more revenue if they just started really working with theaters, regional theaters,
Mhm.
on getting regional theaters up and running again
Yeah,
and had representatives for those theaters.
yeah.
I think that's where the issue is right now. I think there's like low staff at actors equity, so there's not as many people they're able to kind of employ to be liaisons with these theaters.
Yeah.
Now,
I think it
speaking
would.
of Broadway,
Broadway.
speaking of Broadway, Broadway ticket sales.
That's it.
So if it costs between 10 and 15 million dollars to mount a musical on Broadway. Million. Some of those a little bit more. Like Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, remember that? $76 million went into that show.
Oh, that was such sad.
80% of shows, 75-80%, don't break even.
Of course. What the heck? 70 for a
75-80%
Spider-Man?
shows.
What kind of Spider-Man? Did he
Do
fly?
not break even.
Did he go all around the
He
theater?
did fly. He did fly. He went all around the
He
theater.
better
He
did
hurt
a lot of
himself a couple
things.
times, poor guy.
He better did a lot of things for $76 million.
Oh, he did. They did a lot of special effects. They went like, what else can we do? Money, 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 money. And then it ended up closing because it wasn't a good show. The tech was great. Show
That's
was
such a waste of money. I would have been so
I know, it's so sad.
and sad.
Um,
And broke.
But so when you kind of look at it week by week, it costs about $500,000 to $800,000 per week to run a musical. That's like paying everybody. That's keeping the lights on.
I feel like
Buying-
I feel like when the collection service calls. Sorry, I have been in collections a couple. Not anymore. I've been better, but when all I want to say is I ain't got it. Like, I ain't got it. How do you pay for that, Megan? How do you pay for that? A week?
Ticket sales, baby. Ticket sales would pay for it a week.
But how do you do that in
So
COVID?
think about,
or post COVID?
well, that's where then this conversation's got to go, right? Can we have these full scale productions that, like Mean Girls and Frozen, announced they weren't coming back? Can shows like Hamilton with their big cast? Can shows like
Something Rotten? Well, I mean, I know they were gone, but still,
what
what if
was
they
on
came back?
what was on Broadway before it came back? Before it closed? In 2020. Oh, Moulin Rouge.
Six.
Well, six is little anyway,
Six
but like
would be
Moulin
done.
Rouge. 6 could still
Yeah.
be done because that's probably a cheaper show to run because you only have 6 people and your band.
And you don't need the band on stage. I know that that's
You
their
don't.
thing.
You don't, but it'd
Or
be
you can
easy
at least
to
put them 6, push them
yeah,
back. You can push them
push
back.
them back, put them in their own little cubicles. It work.
Mm-hmm.
But
It'd
because
work.
you only have
6
six
can work.
girls, they're not doing any costume changes. They're not doing any shoe
No,
changes.
no.
So it'd be
6 is the musical.
cheaper. Six is the one. Everyone just do six.
Bring back 6. You can do 6. We have
Just do
proven
six,
it
everybody.
with all of our expertise over here that you could do 6
It's true.
Broadway. 6 is a good to go. Go ahead and
Yeah, 6
let's
is
go.
good to go. Now,
Start
for
it.
everybody else,
Everybody
it's
else,
not
you
going to be
guys
easy
are-
for you. Because they have these big, I mean, Hamilton is a cast of what, 30 people?
Mhm.
How are you going to have 30 people? You know, how are you going to run a show $100,000 a week on half of what you're taking in?
You can't. You can't.
And
That's
then
why
that's when the conversation starts going to, well, you raise ticket prices.
You
But
can't.
how?
You
How
can't.
can anyone afford? I mean, as of everything shutting down, nobody could go to Hamilton anyway, right? It was still too expensive. It was like $300 a ticket, $400 a ticket. It was insane. And yes, thank you, Lin-Manuel Miranda, for introducing the $10 lottery. That's fantastic. But who wins those things? Not me. No matter how many times I enter, I never win. I know someone that won that lottery 5 times.
Lynn, she's a little disgruntled.
5 times. The original cast, he got to see the original cast 5.
Well, you can at least send
For
your
$50.
$10 bill and he'll sign it. You can send your $10 Hamilton bill and you'll get at least a signature.
Not anymore, I won't. But anyway.
But you can't.
You know,
that's the thing. You cannot.
You can't do it.
You can't.
So what do you do?
People are in so much debt right now. People are trying to hold on to homes right now, cars, the essentials, food, toilet paper. So like you cannot it cannot go back to, at least right now, at least for a couple of good years. Because those who did have credit cards probably are maxed out on all of them by now, trying to keep themselves afloat through the stuff. Like, it's going to take people a while to just climb out of their debts and climb out of their holes and get stable again to even think about leisure entertainment. And this is what, people are even canceling subscriptions. Like, people used to have like all these different subscriptions, Netflix, Hulu, all of them, Disney. Now they even are going back to just the basics, like only one, if not any, because they can't afford $50 a month, but they can maybe afford $10, so like,
exactly.
It's a different time for a while. It's going to be a different time. I would say for the next 5 years, at least.
Because then you're also still going to have people who are, have COVID anxiety, who still don't want to leave, who have difficulties now leaving their house. You have borders still aren't open. So all that international tourism that we count on won't be there.
Nope.
And when you think about the fact that Broadway alone brought in more money to the city of New York than any sports team combined.
Yep.
Like, that's a huge hit to the city. Huge hit.
Huge.
Because not only is it Broadway, but it's the businesses surrounding the theaters too. The restaurants, the shops, the gift shops, the hotels.
The gift shops are dead. There is no anything extra that Broadway tried to get their little schmilly on after the show. It ain't gonna happen. If I can afford the one ticket that I could afford, I am not getting all of that other stuff. Just letting you know, it ain't gonna happen. I'm not getting the T-shirts. I'm not getting the cups. I'm not getting I'm not getting any of it.
Yeah,
I'm not.
You had a good point early on. And I want to circle back to that point, is you probably don't come back to an 8-show-a-week schedule. You probably come back to something a little bit more like 3 or 4 shows a week for Broadway, that is. You know what I mean? Because you need kind of a slower rollout. I don't think you can go like wham bam 8 shows a week again. You know what I mean? Because there's no way you're going to be able to sell those tickets
Right. There's no
You know
way.
what I
There's too
mean?
many. Unless you do the thing that I was saying, which I don't know if they want to do because they're weird about, when it's on Broadway, it's on Broadway. But if they are willing to try, just try one show. Try one show doing both, where you do the 3 days a week Broadway and then a few days a week streaming,
Hmm.
and then see what happens there.
Well, and it brings up another good point too, which I read this article today about how when you kind of let shows stream, and you and I had this
Hmm.
conversation before about there you can do it. I feel like you just have to have some rules around it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
the original cast it can't like be like a show opens and 2 days later you can stream it. It has to be like a year or two later. It's going to be like a Hamilton or a Wicked, where it looks like it's probably never going to close in the near future. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So you do a recording of the original cast. Once everybody in the original cast is gone, then you release it for like one weekend out of the year. People can watch it because it's not the same cast anymore. You encourage them through the streaming to continue to support and donate, and maybe go see like the live production, or go see the tour that's about to happen. And then if you do have a production where, like, let's be honest, it's got a couple years on Broadway maybe, but it's gonna close, like it's not gonna be one of those lasting stays forever,
Hmm.
then you wait till it closes and you do
Well,
a
here's
streaming
an
of the original
idea.
cast that way.
I mean, I know there's Broadway HD, but I know it's not Broadway's
It is
thing.
Broadway. It is Broadway
It is
stuff.
Broadway?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's
Some I
Broadway
mean
stuff,
some of
but is it
them.
Broadway's like is it their thing? Or is it somebody else going, "Hey, this is a streaming thing that you can watch Broadway shows?"
I
Or
think
is it
it's a
literally
streaming
from
thing that you
Broadway?
can. Well,
Watch
because it
Broadway.
is
That's
some of the Broadway recordings.
Yes, it's some of the Broadway recordings, but the reason why it seems like it's a little off Broadway because they don't have everything. And that's why I'm thinking it's not Broadway's stamp, it's somebody else saying, "Okay, this is where you can watch the ones we
Well,
have."
the everything thing is has to do with rights, probably
Yeah, that's true.
rights to watching, because this is all new territory.
Because
You know
I
what I
was I
mean?
was thinking the reason why I brought that up, because say just for this example's sake, say Broadway HD is not Broadway, it's just there, it's somebody using, like, saying you could watch these shows
Yeah.
that they have access to. Say Broadway has their own thing. Now it's their stuff, their rights, everything goes into their umbrella, and it's their streaming service. So think of it as NBC, Peacock, or
Yeah.
or even Netflix and all of its stuff. So Peacock is probably a better example here. So think of NBC,
Hmm.
all of NBC stuff that they have, that before they were letting other people use it, right? If someone wanted The Office, they're like, okay, you pay me a little bit, and then Netflix can stream The Office. But there came a point where they're like, and even Disney did the same thing. We're like, okay, we want to have our own thing, and it's our own rights, but we're going to take it from everywhere else where it's our thing, and then you can stream as you please. So that way, all the money, then they can make it a subscription service.
Yeah.
Then that way, all the money goes straight back into Broadway. Then they can release the shows whenever they want. They don't even have to wait the 2 years, because
Yeah.
now this is a special group of people that got this access to the Broadway streaming service. So
Well,
perhaps that's a thing they can
that could
do.
work. I mean, it would be competitive, because the other thing is, then you have to think about is, remember I told you Broadway's not just like one big organization. It's like groups
Yeah,
of theaters that people own. So you have
that's
like the
true.
Schubert organization that owns like 4 theaters. Then you have, um, I can never
So
remember
is
how to
there is
pronounce
there
this,
like an
but like
organization where
Roundabout
they all
Theater.
meet together or
Not really.
something?
No, because they're all competitors.
They need to get along,
They
and they
need
need
to
a
get along.
formulated all together thing, and then they can bring all their stuff together.
But what I was going to say is, I read this article that advocates for streaming, and I'm still kind
Hmm.
of on the fence about streaming, but this kind of made me look at it in a different light. At least is it this is a written by this article was written by a woman who um, has a disability, and who is not able to sit and watch a show for a long, like she's not able to sit upright for that long. And sometimes her medication makes her nauseous, and so like if she, you know, she never quite knows what she's going to get the day of, right?
Right.
She said she went and saw Hamilton, but she couldn't even remember anything by the end of it because she was in so much pain. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
there are some people that live all over the country, all over the world, that are not as able-bodied as you and I, and so they're not able to just get on a plane and go to New York City and, you know, go down the street and take the subway and go into the theater. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy. So it makes theater accessible to them. And
it makes theater accessible to,
experiences.
because even as you were saying that, and as an able-bodied person, even I'm like, that's number one, exhausting. And number two, very expensive. I got to get a flight. I got to get a hotel. I got to get, you know, travel fare for around the city. Then I got to get my ticket. Like, that's a lot of money. Like that alone, like for someone who lives way on the West Coast, I'm looking just to go see a show. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars. Like that is not something that a lot of people can do, you know, like if at all in their lifetime, maybe once in a lifetime, but some people can't even do it at all in their lifetime.
Right.
So like it makes theater accessible to and I get it. There's regional theaters, but it's not Broadway. And not to go against the regional theaters. Y'all are doing awesome. We love you. You keep doing what you do, but it makes Broadway, and that's, you know, again, why I think that Hamilton had that extra success, because they had success, and then they had 4 years later a boom of more success.
Yeah.
You know, and then it also provided, to me, when I think of specifically like that, it provided even more for the actors, because yes, they were known when it came out and they got their Tonys and they got their stuff, but then when it came on Disney Plus, they were hecka known. Now they are legit celebrities, and with that comes so much more opportunities for them. It brings more money for them. It brings more prestige for them. It brings more jobs for them. Not only them, but for all the creatives behind us. Because I bet, like when it hit Disney Plus, they got, you know, Mr. Jerry got a phone call. Hey, can you produce my thing? You know, hey, can you stage my thing? Hey, I see what you did with the lighting there. Can I hire you for this? So it opens so much opportunities for the creatives as well. So I just think it is the future, and I think there is a balance. There's got to be a balance, but I think we got to find a balance between Broadway and streaming, between actors and shows post-COVID, between equity and regional theaters as well. There just needs to be, I think this whole episode at the end of the day is finding the balance. Where is the balance in what is fair, what is right, and what is progressive, and what is also even successful? How are we going to succeed post-COVID?
It's true. A lot of it is, and it's hard because there are still so many of kind of the old guard that don't want to move forward on anything. And I get that, you know, some of these actresses and actors and productions of yesteryear that we were never around to see were absolutely astounding. It would have been great if we had some of that on camera for us to understand why it was so good. I get that theater is fleeting. Every performance is different anyway. Every night is different anyway. We're not going to see the same thing that you see, but at least we will see a version of it, and it will inspire us. And that could be something, you know, Broadway is like, we're not going to stop. We're not going to make Broadway all of a sudden go back and do, you know, a bunch of old school musicals and not write anything new. Like, creativity is ever changing and ever moving.
It's ever moving.
We have to find ways to change with it that makes sense. Some things aren't going to make sense, and some things are. And sometimes we just got to try it out.
And I was about to say, and this is the time to try things. Like, if any time to try different things, to take risks, this is the time, because it's all kind of sketchy anyway. So if you're this is the time for those ideas that you had in your head, like, oh, what if? This is the time to do it. This is the time to take those chances, take those, and then see what works and see what doesn't, or see, okay, this kind of worked, now let me tweak it to see that it works better. So I think they could really, really do something here. if they're, number one, willing to try, willing to let go of because I think it's safe to say that the holistic side of what was before is gone, and it may never come back. So they may have to let go of some of that, like all of it. Not, I mean, of course, there's still stuff there, but I think what they knew of Broadway prior to COVID, I think that is gone, and I think there's going to be a slightly different definition,
Right.
moving forward. And I think that's where they got to let it go. We can't, you know, it's like it goes. It's like you busted out of these shoes. These shoes were old. You busted out. I know you can think you can just sew it back up and try to wear these old, but it's time to revamp the shoe.
Trying to get a new pair of shoes.
It's time to get a new pair of shoes. And you can get the exact same pair of shoes. You can get an Adidas still.
Get the same thing, different color.
Get the shoe, but just the
new,
exactly. Just get the new one. That's all we're asking. You don't put don't try to put your foot into. Oh, actually, our one of our guests for our Unmasked said it very well. Ashley Raymond Brown said, "We got to stop trying to fit a square peg into a round hole."
Yeah.
COVID has now made our peg round.
Yeah.
And we can't, made our peg square, and you know, we can't keep stuffing it in there and then getting frustrated because it's not working. We gotta maneuver our hole now. We gotta change our stuff to be able to fit what's happening.
Well, and then it just brings it right back around full circle to actors' equity again, because there is where does, and this is a conversation for another day, because I need to do more research, because I have no idea what this means. But like, then you have, you know, once it's streaming, now is that a SAG contract or is that an equity contract? You know, so then you start working into weird territory there.
Maybe
right?
SAG and equity have a baby and called it Sigwicity.
They're sisters, but they are feuding sisters right now. They are not happy.
They need
with
to
each
get
other
it together.
Right now. They
are family.
You know what, they need to come to like terms and like, you know, come up with a secret handshake that they both win. You know, they both get a little money and everyone can be happy. But that's really like what needs to happen.
And there's a way to do it. There's a way. Have the meeting. Listen, have the meeting. Get yourselves on a board. Order some sandwiches and sit there and hash it out.
Get some coffee and hash it out.
Hash it out. There's a way.
You got this. There's a way.
You got this. There's a way to do, and then there you go. And then that would solve a lot of those issues, and everyone would be happy. At least until something else happens.
Exactly. Thank you for the good conversation today, Selena.
Of course.
I feel like we had a lot of good thoughts and points.
We did.
Thank you all for listening to another episode. Please like the podcast, share it with your friends, give us some stars if you like what you are listening to. If you like what you're seeing, go on to our Patreon at patreon.com/onehen and become a patron. Help us keep making these podcasts.
Yes, and make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you also comment. You know, I know you guys have thoughts. Go ahead and comment. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you agree with us, what ideas you come up with when you're listening to this episode. Go ahead and leave some comments for us to continue the conversation with. That's always cool.
And follow us on our social media, Instagram, Facebook. We're there.
Technically TikTok.
We're on TikTok.
We are on TikTok, guys. We are.
Guys, I will be in New York City probably by the time this airs, so maybe I can TikTok in New York City a little bit.
TikTok in New York City. You won't want to miss that, so you better go ahead and follow us on it.
Exactly. There you go.
We love you.
We love you. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye.